All across America, there is something in the air. At a time of year when many try to escape it, there are some who seek out the freezing cold and embrace it. Because in order to play one of the world's hottest sports, you have to start with a cold sheet of ice. But that's just the beginning. The better you get at this game, the more it rocks. Curling is a sport of skill and strategy, where success depends on a smooth delivery and an iron will. And victory can be decided by the smallest of margins. Tonight, some of the sport's brightest American stars have come to shine in the Twin Cities as they kick off a round-robin tournament pitting them against 3 elite nations. Will they have what it takes to outmaneuver the world's best? Or will another country end up celebrating on American ice? There's something in the air, but it's not the cold. Friday night is curling night on NBCSN. Proud to present to you NBCSN Curling Night, brought to you by the United States Olympic Committee. A lot of places in the United States would be a great host for this international event, but the Twin Cities, a pretty good spot. First downtown Minneapolis, and then the state capital in St. Paul. 4 of the top curling nations in the world all congregating just outside of the Twin Cities in Blaine, Minnesota. Fogarty Arena, home of the Four Seasons Curling Club, and the U.S. Curling National Training Center, serving as the host site for this 4-nation event. We'll take a look at the United States and China in Draw 1 of the women's portion of the event. Jason Knapp, glad to have you with us alongside Olympic bronze medalist and 8-time U.S. national champion Pete Fenson. And Pete, these 4 countries here, the U.S., China, Japan, and New Zealand, what does that mean as far as this competition goes?
Well, the beauty of this event, Jason, is these teams all get to play quality games against great international teams. And, you know, teams from different parts of the world tend to play the game a little differently, so it gives everybody a chance to look at some of their upcoming opponents for the World Championships.
Well, we'll see coverage for both the men and the women throughout our NBCSN Curling Night series. But Pete, ladies first, and we'll start here with China and the United States. For the Americans, Nina Roth, the reigning national championship skip.
Yeah, Nina Roth, defending U.S. champion, been working very hard on her game. This year, her new task is to get comfortable with her new third, Jamie Sinclair.
How about the Chinese contingent?
The Chinese team always very technically sound, and whenever I watch them play, I expect to see them make a lot of shots.
Now, the Chinese women, the first Asian country to win an Olympic medal when they took bronze in 2010. Well, we're ready to go here, but before we start, let's meet another member of our Curling Night crew, Tracy Wilson.
Before the game, I spoke to U.S. skip Nina Roth about her team's strategy up against China. And she said they want to have the hammer on even ends. She said they are not afraid to blank an end or give up a point if they have to have the advantage of having the hammer at the final end.
Tracy, thanks. Pete, rules for us here on Curling Night, a little bit different than what we see in big competitions.
Yeah, in international competition, Jason, these games are 10 ends long, but for these players, 8 ends is what they're used to throughout the course of the tour season.
And the time frame short as well for these teams, just 59 minutes for each to complete their games. For the United States at this competition, the process new as well. The new high-performance program in place for top-level U.S. curlers, no longer picking their own teams, the best players put together, hopefully to earn the best results.
I think you're concentrating your best practices on a specific group of talent and hopefully giving them a set of systems that are measurable and definable. Having a professional coaching staff that is helping make those decisions really just formalizes what the athletes are trying to do, which is be on the best team, get the best talent together. The idea, I think, with this new system that we can help the athletes with those things, then they get to concentrate on making shots and performing in the competitive field of play. Not which event are they going to, what is their strategy for this team. We'll give them some tools and skills, and then they get to just worry about making the shots and not all of the other stuff that goes around the events. The high performance system is our best chance at changing our Olympic performance for the better.
So a new plan in place. We'll see about the process, if that's put into place in the right spot for the United States. China awaits. The competition begins in a moment. NBCSN Curling Night is being brought to you by the United States Olympic Committee. For the latest deals on official Team USA gear, visit TeamUSAShop.com. And by the 2016 World Financial Group Continental Cup of Curling. Come see why Las Vegas rocks. Well, the fans at Four Seasons Curling Club at Fogarty Arena, ready for the action. Hope you are as well. Let's meet the teams.
Nina Roth, skip.
Jamie Sinclair, third.
Rebecca Hamilton, second.
Tabitha Peterson, lead.
Liu Sijia, skip. Liu Jinli, third.
Yu Xin-na, second. Vice skip.
Wang Rui, lead.
For those unfamiliar, Pete, with the sport of curling, give us some things to look for.
So here we see the entire sheet of curling ice. This is the field of play. We have the house, or the 12-foot circle. That's the rocks have to touch that in order to count or go on the scoreboard. Once they cross the back line, they're out of play, and a rock has to completely cross the hog line in order to be used in that end.
So we're ready to go for the United States, which will be throwing red rocks. China will have the yellow stones.
Okay. I like it.
China will have the hammer, the last shot advantage to begin.
Tab.
So the United States will start us off. Nina Roth, the skip for the U.S., and Tabitha Peterson is the lead. The 25-year-old from Eagan, Minnesota, begins the game.
So you see the call by Nina Roth here. Tabitha throw the first one in the rings. We heard Nina say that she's fine to blank some ends to get to the even ends, and without the hammer, this is a nice way to get the game started.
4-5. 15-60. Yep.
Jamie Sinclair,
Top four. Come on, girl.
Becca Hamilton, the third and second for the U.S. respectively, handling the sweeping duties to start off. That one does get into the 4-foot area. Wang Rui.
And the Chinese team with maybe the same idea that Nina had mentioned. They're going to hit this first stone. A lot of times in the first end of the game, teams want to try and just play through an end and get comfortable on the ice.
This Chinese team, comprised of different competitors than represented China at the Olympics in Sochi. That group went 4-5 in round-robin play a year ago at the Olympics and did not advance to the medal rounds. Again, China winning that bronze medal in 2010. And their third, Lu Jinli, part of that bronze medal winning team.
A lot of times now, in the first year of an Olympic cycle, we'll see countries forming new teams, not unlike the United States with a new program, trying to get geared up for the next upcoming Olympics.
Whoa. That's good.
So a guard laid out for the United States. Pete, you touched on it a little bit. We heard Ann Swisshelm in the previous segment talk about this high-performance program to improve the U.S. chances internationally. What's the early feedback you think been from curlers across the United States about this new system?
Well, it's a pretty big change in culture for curlers. So, there's definitely an adjustment period for everybody, the players on the teams as well as the players outside the teams, to get comfortable with this new situation.
In learning new roles, playing with different players, and again, the ultimate goal to put the United States in a better position to get better results at the highest levels of curling.
9-5.
Look at Nina Roth, 26-year-old skip from McFarland, Wisconsin, for the United States. And again, here's the first stone for her second, Rebecca Hamilton.
Whoa.
Nina's asking Becca to throw an out-turn hit down the side of the sheet here. Wants to just trade stones with the Chinese. A little wide and rolled out on the high side, which now allows the Chinese to peel the guard and attempt to blank the first end.
And with the hammer, you'd always like to score multiple points. And if not, take that blank end and retain the hammer for the next end. Yushin Na able to peel away that guard as Pete predicted. So an open house for the U.S. and their fourth stone of this opening end. Second one from Hamilton. So Nina Roth getting things set up for Team USA. And again, for those of you jumping in with us, remember, not the normal 10 ends you're used to seeing at the Olympics, other big competitions, just 8 ends. And how does this maybe alter strategy for some of these teams?
Well, this 8-end format is something these players are used to. That's what they play on tour all season. But in an 8-end game, they do have to get at it a little bit quicker, and a lead in the fourth end is now halfway through the game, so it's something to keep in mind.
14-60. Nice shot. That's good.
So a draw here for the United States. Just behind the button. And China ready to put its next stone into play. This Chinese team won gold at the recent Pacific Asia Championships in Japan. They beat Korea 7-6 to grab the top spot. Only loss for the Koreans in 10 games at the championships.
So there you see a pretty nice shot by the Chinese team. They hit and rolled all the way over to the side of the rings. If their goal is to blank this end, you can see now they only have about a 1.5 foot roll to roll their shooter off the rings for the blank.
Well, opening end of any game sometimes strategically is played close to the vest. Is that even more so when it's the opening end of the opening game of a tournament?
Yeah, definitely, Jason. A lot of times, the players have some nerves. They're trying to get comfortable with the new surface for the most part. They have practice, but sometimes the ice changes a little bit at game time, so they just want to make sure that they're perfectly comfortable with this sheet.
22-year-old Jamie Sinclair, her first stone of the competition, and that's on target to take out that yellow Chinese stone. And again, empty house here as we roll along at end number 1. Lu Jin Lee.
Big opportunity now for the Chinese team to actually get to throw a draw into the rings. It's good for the sweepers. They get to judge the amount of glide in the ice, and the skip can see how much these draws are actually curling. And we'll see, if maybe they're going to take that into the second end and try and generate a little offense.
So Roth looking back for Sinclair. Born in Anchorage, Alaska, lives in Canada, student at Carleton University. Grew up in a military family, did Jamie Sinclair, so a little bit of a globe hopper. Kind of fits in with the traveling you need to do at the high-level curling.
Nice shot.
Jamie seems to have been a nice addition to this team. She really throws the rock clean. She makes a lot of shots, and she's doing a pretty good job this year so far of setting up Nina.
Lu Jin Lee, most experienced of this Chinese team. We mentioned her bronze medal in 2010, also a world champion with the Chinese in 2009. And again, these teams at this point content to kind of trade stones here as we wind down playing end number 1.
Yeah, pretty standard stuff for the first end, especially like you said, the first game of the event. This is a nice chance now with that rollout. Pretty important, but maybe overlooked sometimes for Nina Roth to get to throw a draw right away in the end without any consequence.
I just want to go on the other side of the forefoot. On that side we haven't played yet. Sure.
And you hear her talking about using another piece of the ice, all part of the process of understanding how everything's going to work for the team.
Great observation by Nina there. You can hear her say she wants to get her rock across the center line and make the Chinese play a hit on the other side, an unused portion of the ice.
Some of you may know her better as Nina Spatola, her name before she was married, now going by Nina Roth.
I'm good. Yeah, it's coming down. Coming down, guys. Yep. Gotta go. Yep. Hard.
See them working this one real hard. They want to make sure they get it to the rings. They don't want to leave it short and leave a guard for the Chinese to come around.
Good job. Great weight.
Good shot, bro.
Do you know what you threw in it?
No. They told me to throw a 4-0.
Okay, yeah.
So talking about times there again, tracking certain amount of time to figure out the pace of the stones.
Yeah, this team uses the back line and the hog line as their reference. When the rock crosses the back line, the sweepers start their watch, and when the rock gets to the hog line, they stop their watch. And you can hear Nina there say she threw a 4-0, which is a 4-second split time from the back line to the hog line. So the ice is real quick today.
Lu Shijia, 26 years old, skipping this team to that gold at the Pacific Asia tournament. And won her first ever Pacific Asia medal. Always good when those medals are gold.
Nice little roll there. She'll make potentially her job easier on the last shot to make the blank. Nina will now try and roll back to the middle just to make that roll out a little longer for the Chinese team.
Mentioned Nina Roth won the national championship in Philadelphia last year, 5-4 over 10-time national champion and 2-time Olympian Alan Pottinger. Called the 5-4 win in the U.S. final last year the best overall game she's ever played. And certainly a thrill to be able to do that for your first ever national title.
Yeah, if you're going to have the best game of your career, you want it to be in a national or a world final, that is for sure. Perfectly executed there by Nina. Hit it right on the nose. She got a chance to take a look at how her takeout weight runs down the sheet.
Got 9-3. Good weight. Yeah, you threw that really well.
So now the question for the Chinese team, can they clear this out, take the blank, and keep the hammer to the next end?
Chinese will just attempt to hit half a rock. You only have to roll a couple of feet to roll out of the rings and blank the end and carry the hammer to the second.
Pretty much tracking like standard operating procedure for a lot of opening ends, with the team with the hammer content to take a blank and keep that last shot advantage to the second end. Except that doesn't cooperate. A straight-on hit, the stone stays in the scoring area, and China, which would have loved to have 2 or more points with the hammer, settles for only a single. But the Chinese have the lead through the opening end of the opening night of Curling Night on NBCSN. Action underway in end number 2 of this initial game of Curling Night. China forced to 1 by the United States in the opening end. So the U.S. has the hammer, the last shot advantage here in end number 2.
Pretty nice situation for the USA. Having forced China to 1, they now have the hammer in the even end, the second end, so they can press the issue a little bit. And if things don't go their way, they can take 1 with the hammer to tie the game up and still score in the evens.
The shot from Lu Jinli, leaving China lying 2. The Chinese playing the yellow stones, the United States with the red rocks.
So a couple of nice options here for Team USA. They have a corner guard. There's a couple of the Chinese rocks behind the tee line. You can see here Nina has elected to hit this Chinese stone. More than likely because it's in the 4-foot, she wants to make a little bit more room for herself. trying to roll it under the corner guard, and they lost it into the curl there a little bit. There's quite a bit of curl in the ice, and that rock just took off on them a little bit.
So not just exactly going as planned for the U.S., but still shot rock for the United States.
One key thing to remember here, Jason, is they still have that corner guard. So any little miscue by the Chinese here, if they happen to not hit this stone on the nose, Team USA can go around that corner guard to try and generate their deuce.
Chinese a bit more vocal with calling out instructions here in end number 2. If you remember back in Sochi, the Chinese team was one of the more loud and proud squads in executing their game plans down the sheet of ice.
You can hear they were calling for sweep towards the end of that shot. They're trying to roll the rock away from that corner guard, make it tougher for USA to get one of their stones under cover.
So the hit and stay for Team USA, give us a sense, Pete, of what China's strategy is here.
Right now in this end, the Chinese are trying to hit the U.S. stone and roll to our left here, get it away from that corner guard, and make it tougher for the Americans to get a rock underneath there to generate their 2.
Of course, 2 or more is what you're looking for in every end if you've got the hammer. And when you don't have that last shot advantage, you're trying to limit what the opposition can do, maybe even put yourself in position to steal a point.
Yeah, a nice simple approach is to try and force your opponent to 1 when they have the hammer and score 2 points yourself when you have the hammer. And if you do the math throughout the game, you're going to come out on top more often than not.
That's the plan. Plan always doesn't work out the way you intended. That plan seemed like it worked pretty well.
That's not too bad. You can see that stayed fully in the 8-foot, or almost fully in the 8-foot. So that corner guard isn't really quite as valuable right now for Nina Roth. So she's elected to hit this Chinese stone and probably roll back in front of the one in the back of the 8-foot, as we can see it there. So maybe a 2-foot roll to the shooter's left.
Eyes never leaving the target. Great look at the concentration for Nina Roth.
So this is now in the hands of Jamie Sinclair. She wants to get this roll right. Not quite what she wanted, but nevertheless, they hit and stayed. They're still shot rock, forcing the Chinese to hit and stay themselves in order to possibly force back the USA.
Again, early stages, opening game of this event. 4 teams involved for both the men and the women. U.S., China, Japan, and New Zealand. Always love to get a W to start things off in this double round robin format. So now 2 in the house for Team China, headed to the last rock of the end.
So there probably are 2 options here for Nina Roth. With that nose hit by the Chinese, you can see there is a double and roll out for the blank end for Team USA, but already being down 1 point, Nina's elected to throw the draw, a simpler shot of the 2, make sure she gets her point and tie up the game.
Again, seems strange to those curling novices that taking a single point is somewhat of a bad thing, but here the option to have that double too risky to avoid maybe leaving the Chinese squad in position if you miss to pick up multiple points.
Yeah, definitely the smart play here by Nina to throw the draw, score the single point, as opposed to taking a little bit of a risk and trying to make that double for the blank. She doesn't want to give the Chinese another point and go 2 down after 2. So now in the hands of the sweepers here to judge the speed correctly, trying to put this rock right on the tee line.
That's good enough to get the U.S. on the board. 1 for China in N1, 1 for the United States in N2. And we're even up, underway on NBCSN Curling Night from Minnesota. Downtown Minneapolis all lit up at night. NBCSN Curling Night presented by the United States Olympic Committee. Action here between China and the United States. Opening game of this double round robin tournament. Nobody lighting up the scoreboard as of yet. Just a single point for either team of the first two ends. Action underway here in the third end.
9.5. Clean. Yep.
Pretty standard stuff for early game play. Lots of takeouts. Not a lot of rocks in play. Not a lot of traffic.
Atta girl.
Both teams happy to keep it open.
Becca Hamilton, part of that national championship winning team with Nina Roth, also a junior national champion back in 2011. Here's the latest effort from Team China in Yuxin Na.
Had a nice shot there of how clean and straight the Chinese throw the stone. One of their strengths is definitely their technical expertise.
Interesting, Pete, if you watch the different countries across the globe and how they sort of fit the finer points of the game into kind of some of their individual styles from their countries.
Yeah, you know, I think that comes from different coaches, different coaching philosophies. You can see from different parts of the country or maybe different parts of a state even that deliveries are a little bit different sometimes and styles of play are a little bit different.
Doesn't matter how it looks or how you get there sometimes. The end result is what's desired. Right now, Red Rock in the house for Team USA in the third, again tied at 1 to this point against Team China.
So in the third end here, you can see the Chinese not interested at all in mixing it up. Perfectly happy to just trade hits and try and blank the third end once again. Try and take the hammer into the even fourth end.
So a hit and roll towards the center. And standard play here in the third. 1-1 between the United States and China. We'll return to Minnesota in a moment. The United States and China deadlocked at 1 apiece. Action continuing here in end number 3 of draw number 1 for these teams at this women's portion of the event on NBCSN Curling Night. Jason Knapp here with Olympic bronze medalist, 8-time U.S. national champion Pete Fenson. Down to the skip stones here in the third end. Nina Roth ready to release her rock. Saw Jamie Sinclair, her third, holding the broom in place.
And another wide open end here. We see no rocks in play. Just a simple out turn, hit and stay for Nina Roth. Hoping to force the Chinese to a single here in the third.
Nice judge. That was nice weight. Nice job.
China content, seemingly to, as Pete alluded to, work for the blank, keep the hammer to the next end, not wanting to mix it up. That predetermined strategy kind of going in, how you're going to go about it based on facing a certain opponent?
Yeah, not necessarily always determined by your opponent, but teams will always or should always have a solid game plan, an approach to how they want to play the game, so they can just, it makes it a little simpler for them to go out and carry out the plan. And once they've established what it is across the entire lineup of the team.
Lu Shijia.
See there, they wanted a little sweep at the end to get a little bit of a roll towards the edge of the rings, just to set up that blank, make that last shot a little simpler, shorter roll.
So now the final rock of this end for the U.S. and for Nina Roth.
Nina would love to roll back towards the center line, get towards the bigger part of the rings.
One more rock. Good job.
So now you can see how short this rollout is for the Chinese. It's only about a foot and a half maybe. They just need to hit this U.S. stone a little bit off center on the high side to make this blank.
Not a lot of work to do there to clear the house. And the job done for the Chinese. They get the blank, keep the hammer, and move on to the next end. We'll move on to in a moment on NBCSN. Nighttime in Minnesota. Every night, it seems, is a great night for curling night. Glad to have you along. Tonight for this one, after a blank third end between the U.S. and China, score still one apiece as we pick up play in end number 4, and the Chinese just with some dramatics.
Almost a big break there for the USA. You can see they just missed jamming that stone on their own in the back of the 8-foot.
So Jamie Sinclair, the U.S. third, putting a rock into play, her first here in this end. And China has the hammer here, retaining it after blanking the last end in the third.
So Team USA actually has a couple of options here. They could possibly hit that yellow stone and try and roll under the guard, or even just hit it on the nose to lie 2 and force China to take a single. Nina has instead called the in-turn draw around that guard, trying to get one in the 4-foot and maybe give themselves a chance to steal a point.
That's what Lu Jin Lee and her team is looking at. Here's some English interspersed with Chinese there, the communication plans, some of the curling terms alive and well in any language.
So now at this point, with that rollout on that double attempt by the Chinese team, Jamie Sinclair has the opportunity to throw the in-turn draw here around that center guard. Same shot she just threw on her first one.
See if she can replicate their performance from a little while ago.
Maybe a little ice adjustment by Nina Roth. The last draw was wide open, didn't get under the guard at all. See them really working it hard there to make sure they cleared the guard, and now they're waiting for it to stop, hopefully stay above the tee line.
That'll do for Team USA, which now lies 2.
Here you see a good sweep job, and they just cleared that center guard, and they're able to get this rock completely buried in the 4-foot.
So the potential for a pretty strong end for the United States. Remember, China, though, does have the hammer.
Chinese now electing to come on the outturn side. And they were a little narrow. Maybe that rock over curled a little bit more than they expected, and they hit the guard. But fortunately for them, they rolled over and actually guarded their own stone in the top of the 12-foot.
So maybe in between? Or there. Okay. There's good. Yep.
Now forcing Team USA to put a little cover on this rock in the 4-foot. Trying to throw a guard short of the rings.
Going to look at some of the equipment for Nina Roth and some of the competitors. Sliding back. Yeah, the broom at the ready.
So like a 415?
For her, it won't be used in a sweeping mode, more in a balance mode right now. She gets ready to leave from the hack, put this stone into play.
So we just heard a little communication between Nina and the front end. They told her probably looking for you to throw about a 4:15, which is 4.15 seconds from back line to hog. So the ice has sped up a little bit from the first end to the fourth end. It's important for Nina to throw this one to sweeping. She doesn't want to be heavy out of hand. Now as it comes to rest here and starts to curl, sweepers can place it where they want.
Nice sweep, girls. Nice job.
Not too bad, a little heavier than she wanted to be. She didn't really want to be in the rings. You can see now there's possibly a triple available for the Chinese team, and maybe even roll the shooter on the rings. Had Nina thrown that short, the Chinese would have to deal with it in a different fashion, but most importantly, they couldn't get a second rock in the house. They're electing to just throw an in-turn takeout, pretty much right down the middle of the sheet. They want to hit that top stone just a little bit off center and try and make contact with the one in the forefoot. And you can see there's a great shot. They can possibly get all three of these red rocks moving.
See if the combination is there for Lu Shijia.
Pretty close. Oh, they just missed that by a fraction of an inch. Fortunately for the United States, they've left them lying two. Had they hit that just a little bit higher, for sure they get the one out of the forefoot and probably get that back one moving as well.
So the final stone of this fourth end coming up for Nina Roth.
All right, gang. 3? Yep. Well, let's go full 12. Okay. I think full 12 is good.
Same weight. That was really nice.
Okay.
Again, the call from the skip. Some reassurance from the front end.
Great exchange there between Nina and the front end. She wants to make sure to let them know exactly where they want this rock to stop. She told them full 12 foot. They want to out-count that top Chinese stone and try and lie three. Force the Chinese to make a good shot against three counters.
Hard, Becca, go, yep. Hard. Yep, hard, Becca. Gotta go, hard. Yep, gotta go. Hard, hard. Close it out.
Really working it hard, trying to get it all the way in the rings.
Go, 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 go. Hard, 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 hard.
Doesn't look like it has nearly enough.
Good sweep. Okay, that works.
No, she pulled the string just a little bit. That's the same track she threw her first one on. Maybe being a little bit too careful not to overthrow it. Nina just now realized that by coming up short of the ring, she's left the Chinese a double for three here. Which is a pretty key moment in this game, because had she saw that earlier, I'm sure she makes sure that she gets her rock in the rings, not quite so careful with it.
Initially, a little hand slap with her and one of her teammates, thinking that they had the rock right where they wanted, but now, with more consideration, they realize the Chinese team may have the potential to really crack open this end with the final rock.
Right, and Nina may have gone to sleep just a little bit here in this end, and as did Jamie Sinclair. They're thinking short is okay. They actually guarded shot stone and didn't realize that they've now left this double for three for the Chinese.
Lu Shijia really screaming for her front end to do work. Can they sweep it out? They do. Beautiful double. and it looks out from our vantage point, but from directly overhead, it's in. That's 3 for the Chinese. So seemingly on the defensive throughout the end, they end up with a 3 spot and grab the lead 4-1 after 4 here on Curling Night. NBCSN Curling Night is being brought to you by the 2016 World Financial Group Continental Cup of Curling. Come see why Las Vegas rocks. And by USA Curling. Support your national team by visiting www.usacurl.org. Nighttime in Minneapolis. Been a fun night of curling, the initial night of curling on Curling Night. Jason Knapp, Pete Fenson, halftime here for the U.S. and China, and fairly innocuous start to this matchup.
Yeah, very straightforward and pretty typical for the first game of an event. Not very many rocks in play. Opportunity for a couple of blanks early on.
So the U.S. forcing China to take just a point in the first, and then China returning the favor in the second.
Here you see Nina Roth makes a great draw for her single here, facing 2 Chinese stones. Nice confidence builder.
So each team with a point through the first 2 ends, a blank third end, and then it looked like the United States was set up pretty well here in the fourth, and then all of a sudden maybe a little bit of a mental error for the U.S., and it opened the door for China.
Yeah, definite oversight by Nina Roth, and a great double by the Chinese team.
That allowed them to get 3 in the end. What does Nina Roth think about things? Let's find out. She's standing by with Tracy.
Nina, we spoke before the game about your strategy and being prepared to either blank hands or give up a point in order to have the hammer in the final end. Okay, so now Team China has picked up a couple of points. They're poised to have the hammer at the end. How does that change your strategy?
Well, now that we're down a few points, we definitely want to go for our 2 and try to make things happen and work for us. We're going to throw more corner guards and play things, get things a little bit messy out in the edges, rather than keeping the play in the middle of the sheet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So Nina Roth and Team USA hoping to create more action for Jamie Sinclair. She's got plenty of action in curling and in class.
I'm going to university. I'm living up in Canada, so there's a lot of travel and work that I'm doing on the road to just try to pass my classes and get by, and then obviously all the time that I put into the off-ice training as well. So it's definitely just trying to figure out what works for you. It's a challenge, but I think it's worth it all in the long run. This year I am playing third for Nina. It's different for me because I have been playing skip for a while. So the third position, I kind of have to be the mediator between the front end and Nina in the back end. So it involves a lot of communication and relaying information back and forth, and kind of sometimes being the cheerleader on the team. So that's different for me, but it's been working well.
Now the U.S. hoping to have more to cheer about coming up here against China, trailing 4-1 and number 5 just around the corner for Minnesota. Back in the Minneapolis area, NBCSN Curling Night presented by the United States Olympic Committee. Rolling on, and the United States trying to roll out of a 4-1 hole with action underway here in end number 5. Jason Knapp, 2006 Olympic bronze medalist, 8-time U.S. national champion Pete Fenson along with you. As China tries to keep control of this game, the U.S. playing catch-up after that mental miscue by skip Nina Roth in the last end.
Nice corner guard, 2-3. Yep.
There you look at the numbers. China and the U.S. trading singles in the first 2 ends, and then that big 3 spot for the Chinese, giving them the advantage here to the second half of this game.
Down 3 at the halfway point is a significant deficit, but Nina Roth needs to stay focused on getting back in the game here. Ask Tabitha Peterson to throw corner guard. They're trying to get 2 with the hammer here and close the gap a little bit.
You heard Nina Roth talking with Tracy Wilson during the break about trying to make things messy, try to give themselves some scoring opportunities. We'll see how it plays out in this end.
Team China having the first rock slip to the back of the house, now attempting to throw the second one in the top of the forefoot. You really just want to use this to force the U.S. to make a play at some point. On that shot stone.
Wang Ruwei, solid showing, 80% for her. Shooting-wise in the opening few ends, now the second for the U.S. lead, Peterson. You see her percentage through the first half of this game.
Yep, hard. Hurry, line, yep. Line's really good. Go, 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 go. Hard. Stay on it. Whoa.
So the U.S. now with a couple of guards in place, trying to create some havoc, as Nina Roth alluded to, making things a bit messy for the Chinese.
Nina definitely had the right idea there, asking Tabitha Peterson to just throw her second one around that corner guard, ignoring shot rock in the forefoot. They don't need to necessarily make a play on that yet. Tabitha definitely missed that on the pro side, leaving it short of the rings, and very usable for later in the end.
Yushin Na, again, pretty solid numbers in this game to this point for the Chinese second. Just escorting this one. So 2 in the forefoot for Team China.
Let's just play control. I think this should be okay.
Now the U.S. doesn't have to get it all back in this end, but Nina Roth was pretty clear. Almost vital at this point for the U.S. to get 2 with hammer here, down 3 in end 5. Remember, only an 8-end game. Rebecca Hamilton, the U.S. second, her first stone this end.
I think that's a little bit of a favor to the U.S. by the Chinese team to leave so many rocks around. They did have the opportunity to peel those 2 corner guards, but elected to throw another one in the rings.
Able to take 1 of those Chinese yellow stones, but can't keep the shooter in. And there is that other Chinese yellow rock just biting at the back of the house. We'll see how that factors in as well.
Still electing to stay on the offense here. I'm a little surprised at this call by the Chinese. With a 3-point lead, they could step up and peel those 2 corner guards that the U.S. have in front of the rings. I think Nina Roth is simply going to take advantage of these rocks that are short of the rings. What she needs is rocks in play.
Liu Shijia seemed to like where that ended up.
Several opportunities here now for Nina Roth and Team USA. She can advance these stones, but with so much curl in the ice, she can also throw the in-turn draw around that center guard, which is virtually a corner guard that the Chinese just delivered.
Pretty big spot here for Team USA. And Becca Hamilton, China line 2, already up 3. The U.S., though, trying to capitalize with hammer. Able to peel away the guard. The U.S. trying to rally here against the Chinese. More in a moment. The United States trailing China 4-1. Action Underway here in end number 5 is the Americans playing the Red Rocks, finding themselves with shot rock here, but China trying to create some more havoc.
Pretty simple, wide open in turn takeout to lie 4 for the Chinese, but still not too bad of a situation here for the U.S. They've got rocks behind the tee line that they can use, as well as a corner guard.
How about the percentage for the Chinese skip, Lu Shijia? 95% success rate through the opening 4 ends, and another quality effort. So now China lying 3. And the U.S. hoping to not let this lead for China escalate.
And things look pretty good for the U.S. right now. Front's open. There's a corner guard. Most of these rocks are behind the tee line. This isn't real threatening, and actually, you know, there's a fair chance for them to actually generate their deuce here. Nina will be attempting to hit and roll to her right. Try and get over in front of that Chinese stone that's in the back of the 4-foot.
Nina Roth's numbers even better than her skip counterpart, but again, it was the shot that wasn't taken, playing a different shot that allowed the Chinese to get that big 3 spot in the last end.
Yeah, and that shot actually is recorded as a made shot, even though it turns out to be an oversight by Nina. So that 96%, a little bit deceiving.
Maybe put a little asterisk next to it for the error of not playing the correct shot that was required there to limit the Chinese team. But that's passed out. Team USA focusing on the present, and that's trying to get their 2 here with the hammer.
And a pretty good shot there by Nina. You see she rolled under cover behind those corner guards. Second shot rock, but still will have an opportunity more than likely to score 1 or possibly 2, depending on where this Chinese stone ends up. See how much curl is in the ice here with the Chinese holding the room way out on the side of the 8-foot. They're trying to get their stone all the way around behind that corner guard. So probably 6 feet of curl in the ice. It really allows these players to make a lot of great shots.
Players love when the ice allows them to use their skills to the highest level.
Yeah, it really brings into play their touch and their sweeping, because it really helps to, you know, place the rocks and get them around guards and make these little tap backs that now is available here for Nina Roth.
I can tap that, huh? Play back house, back 8.
Yeah, you just got to get it into the...
Just get it into the red. Here's where I had you for your draws.
Yep. Yeah.
Again, remember, this is a new third with the skip, and you heard in the previous segment Jamie talking about her playing skip and trying to get that communication factor so that everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, it's important for team members to learn how to communicate with the other 3 on the team to help them to make more shots. Therefore, you know, the success ratio goes up for the team. Here now, this is a great overhead. We get to see what Nina's trying to do. She wants to throw the in-turn draw around and tap this yellow stone in the back of the 8-foot just through to count 2.
The U.S. just gave up 3 in the last end. Chance to snare 2 back if Nina Roth can get this tap back for a deuce done.
See them laying off it here, waiting for that rock to take off, get enough curl to make contact with the Chinese stone.
So there's the tap, there's the 2, and maybe there's a little momentum for Team USA. Nina Roth, with a little bit of a mental miscue in the previous end, allowed China to get 3, but her crisp execution gets a deuce for the United States, and it's a 1-point game through 5 ends. One-point game and 1-point lead for China against the United States. The U.S. wearing blue, throwing red rocks. China wearing red, throwing yellow rocks. We're not necessarily color coordinated here on Curling Night, but you get the idea. Jason Knapp here with Olympic bronze medalist, 8-time U.S. national champion Pete Fenson. This has developed into a fun game here as we progress into this 6th end.
Yeah, with that 2 points by the USA, they closed the gap a little bit. And, they're right back in the game here now.
China has the hammer again, and that last shot advantage. We pick up the action. And the stone from Jamie Sinclair, the U.S. third.
Jamie Sinclair with an in-turn hit, trying to lie 2 here for the USA.
Just here. Yep.
Able to roll it into the 8-foot, so the U.S. does lie 2. And China, what's next for that team here, Pete?
Well, the Chinese here have to deal with a couple of U.S. stones. The one in the back of the 4-foot here, which is where they've elected to go, is something they can actually use to freeze 2 or possibly tap it back, which is a real good idea, trying to make that top yellow stone good and bring it into play.
Blue Jin Lee, the Chinese third, with her first stone of this end.
Playing a nice soft tap back, trying to maybe roll inside under the guard a little bit.
So that's shot rock for the moment for the Chinese.
So you can see there that rock's wide open. A little bit of room there past the stone on the top of the 8-foot for Jamie Sinclair. He has asked her to just come down and hit it on the nose again. Maybe even roll under cover just a little bit if she can.
Some woes and ohs from the United States.
Not what she wanted there. She definitely wanted to keep that rock in the 8-foot. You can see now for the Chinese, they have the opportunity to just hit this stone on the nose and lie 2. A simple shot for Jamie Sinclair. They're just an open hit and stay on the nose. And those are sometimes the things that turn these games around. The execution of or lack thereof in this situation.
China able to get its hit and stay. And they lie 2.
Looks like there's probably a double available for Nina here. Just an out turn right down the middle. Trying to hit about half a stone and roll onto the other one of China's and kick both out of the rings.
Firm.
A national championship last year for Nina Roth, actually her second, 1-1 as a vice skip for Erica Brown in 2010. Erica Brown, the skip of the Olympic team for the United States a year ago. Also a 3-time U.S. junior national champion is the former Nina Spatola, now Nina Roth. Used to performing in high-pressure situations.
You see she's thrown a fair amount of weight here, trying to roll halfway across the rings to make this double.
Go, Jamie, go.
Got to get that out of the rings, Jamie.
That was the hope for the U.S., but not the result. So China's still lying 2.
So maybe another little detail there that Nina didn't quite catch before she threw that stone. She probably missed that on the wrong side. If she hits that a little thinner, there's no danger. She hits it a little too thick. You can see she leaves it in the back of the rings now. And an opportunity for China to lie 3.
The U.S. looking on as Lu Shijia gets her work going here in this 6th end.
Trying to spread out the house as much as possible, throwing the outturn draw to the opposite side of the rings. That's a huge missed opportunity by Team China.
Trying to laugh it off. You could see her reaction when she released it with that downturned lip. Didn't have a good feeling about it, and that feeling was right.
It's gonna run. I think so.
Probably a sigh of relief by Team USA.
That's good.
With only 1 rock to come, China had a chance to just throw a simple draw into the rings to lie 3. Now for Nina Roth and Team USA, possible chance to get out of this little mess. Nina has a chance to make an outturn double here. Get away unscathed.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And that chance is huge for the U.S. You give up 3, you get a 2 to get back in it, and then almost calamity again with a possibility for a large end for China. Now the chance for the United States to kind of clean things up a little bit.
That's right, Jason. These are the opportunities that are very important to seize, take advantage of. They don't come along all that often. Maybe a chance to turn the game around a little bit here for the USA.
And the double's there. Terrific stuff from Nina Roth.
These are the kind of shots that are very important in a game like this. You can see she hits it just off the nose, makes contact in the back. Huge double by Nina Roth.
Well, China squandered a chance to really apply some pressure to Team USA. And the skip for the Americans delivering a shot that probably will force China into just continuing to work towards a blank and the throw through. And that's the way it'll play out. So no scoring here in the 6th. China, though, keeps the hammer to the 7th. And the Chinese still have the lead. 1 point separating Team China and Team USA through 6 on curling night. NBCSN Curling Night presented to you by the United States Olympic Committee. The action continues not too far away from downtown Minneapolis. The Four Seasons Curling Club, Fogarty Arena in Blaine, Minnesota. 2 teams separated by 1 point with 2 ends left, the United States and China.
Just a 3.
And a look at the lead, Tabitha Peterson for Team USA, and China after that blank end of the 6th, keeping hold of the hammer here for the 7th.
The goal for the USA here is to force a score of some sort in this 7th end, either forcing China to take 1 with the hammer or maybe even steal 1 for the USA. Gives them a chance to win the game in the 8th. See, they tried to throw that rock short of the rings. But now since it touches the paint, China has the opportunity to throw a takeout. Remove it from play. Keep things nice and open.
And if it had stayed in that free guard zone as one of the first couple of rocks in the end, they would have had to remain there, couldn't have taken it out. But since, as Pete alluded to, it touched the rings, China with the option to clear it away, keep things open, And here's the second for Tabitha Peterson. Actually, Tabitha was on the losing side in the national championships last year to Nina Roth, and her sister Tara was part of Roth's team at the national finals. Had to be an interesting conversation back at the Peterson household after that.
See two big misses by Tabitha Peterson there in the 7th end. She throws the first rock in the rings and allows China to throw a hit, and then she hogs the second rock. And I'm going to say advantage China at this point in the end.
And not able to get it across the hog line, so taken out of play. So an open door, if you will, here for China with the hammer and the chance to try to set things up to really control this game in the next to last end. Remember, only 8 ends during this competition.
Now China's pretty happy with this situation. They've just called for an outturn draw into the side of the rings. They're happy with a blank end here at this point. That would bring them home 1-up with hammer. Their win ratio there is real high in that situation.
24-year-old Becca Hamilton.
All the way back here.
Now Nina, realizing what's going on here, has called for Becca to freeze on this Chinese stone in the back of the house. Maybe force something to happen. They don't want to let China get away with a blank end if they can here.
China would love to have the option to keep that hammer, take it to the final end with the lead. Yushin Na, former world bronze medalist for China in 2011. Those world championships taking place in Denmark. The Women's Worlds this year in Sapporo, Japan, former host city for the 1972 Olympic.
Same thing.
So second try for Becca, another outturn freeze.
9.
I expect she'll be awfully close this time. She just got to throw this shot on her first one. She knows this track in the sheet now. The line's perfect. They just need it to sit down a little bit.
Nice shot.
The U.S. liking the result of that freeze on the Chinese yellow stone. But it is definitely furious gum chewing time for the United States here. Still trailing, and the ends and stones running low.
Actually, an opportunity for the Chinese now to just remove all of these rocks from play. Hit about a half a stone and roll the shooter out. Also kick their own out of the back of the house. She's a little narrow to the broom. Still shot rock in the back, but an opportunity for the blank there to set up the blank.
I mean, if I tap this a hair, that's okay too.
U.S. still throwing freezes. Really trying to force the Chinese to take a single. Or maybe even make a good shot against more than one counter of their own.
It's all there, tapping. Line's good.
Yep, line. Yep.
Line's good.
Yep,
Finally,
line.
the brushwork comes in.
Hard. Atta girl.
Not too bad. They actually let that over curl just a little bit. You can see now the Chinese can either hit and roll into lie 2. You can hit and roll right over in front of the red one. They also have the chance to throw a freeze here themselves, but the way the end started, they were trying to blank the end. Now you see maybe they've had a change of heart.
Looking to see what opportunity presents itself. And again, the Chinese can afford to be a little choosy here. They've got the lead and the hammer.
Yeah, nice comfortable situation for the Chinese. 1 up with hammer, only 2 ends to go. There's no guards in play. Pretty stress-free situation for the Chinese.
And for Team USA, trailing, you'd love to be able to force the issue here, but in this situation, it's kind of tough to do that. You risk really ruining any chance you have to win.
Yeah, they have to be a little bit careful when they're trying to force. They want to make sure they don't give China 2, because that would put them 3 down playing the last end, and real
1, 2,
tough
3.
to come back in that situation.
Right to it, Jamie. A little bounce is good.
Jamie Sinclair eyeing that intently.
Line's good. 7, 8. Just to it, no bump. 8.
Watch this slide down from the side of the sheet.
U.S. team struggling a little bit here with the speed of the ice. You can see all the shots they've thrown on this end have been virtually unswept. Therefore, that causes problems with the line. It's a little tougher to get the line right. That one didn't turn out too bad, but still an opportunity for China to hit this on the high side or the nose in line 2. Maybe roll over in front of some of that backing, some of those rocks that are in the back corner of the house. Want to hit this pretty close to the nose. They don't have a lot of room to roll. That's a pretty good result. You can see that yellow stone of the Chinese that's in the middle is virtually in jail. With this little hit just on the high side, they basically trapped that yellow stone in the back of the 8-foot.
See the clocks running down. 59 minutes for each team to play their games. In the U.S., boy, short on time, Pete.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too many, a few too many discussions going on. They need to maybe pick up the pace just a little bit to finish out the game on time.
We'll see if that becomes a factor as we roll on.
Yep. Whoa. Oh, 9.5. Oh, yep. Whoa. 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 Shot. That works. Good job.
Great shot by Nina. You can see she kicked that back Yellowstone out of the rings, freeing up the one that I was talking about earlier that was frozen to it. Here we see she just makes contact with that second Yellowstone and kicks the back one out of the rings. Things are looking a little better now for the USA.
So things looking better for the United States, but how do things look here if you're China?
Well, still an opportunity for the Chinese to play a soft weight hit on this red stone on the tee line and roll all the way across the rings, preferably right to the back of the 8-foot so they don't set up a double for the USA. They can lie 2 here.
And if they get their 2 in this end, they'd be up 3. Going to the last end, that would be prime position for the Chinese team.
So the Chinese trying to hit about a half a stone. Got a lot of room to roll. Oh, that's kind of a break for the U.S. there with the Chinese stone over curling, making contact with the rocks in the back.
So the U.S. looking like it has shot here as they come down to their last rock of the end.
Looks like a hit for 2 or hit to lie 2 for Nina Roth.
Roll all the way over to the other side of the 8-foot. Okay.
So now Nina's going to play a long roll. Hopefully going to school on the Chinese stone. She got to see how it ran when it came down the sheet.
Yep. Forward. Oh. 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 Oh.
Have to make sure they stay.
Atta girl. Good shot.
And the U.S. lies 3 here. So China now going to have to try to do something. The chance for them to get their deuces out the window.
Yeah, that's right, Jason, but still, 1 up with hammer. China just has a wide open nose hit, and that's how they play this entire end. Like I said before, stress-free, pretty straightforward shot to have a 2-point lead coming home.
Lu Shijia looking to help double that China lead.
Nice quiet wait.
Basic play, and in this situation, basic works. China up 2 with 1 end remaining. The United States has the hammer in its last gasp coming up. One end remaining, 2-point advantage for China over the United States in this first draw, first game for both of these teams, part of this 4-nation competition for the U.S., China, Japan, and New Zealand. Double round-robin format. China, after getting that single point with hammer in the 7th, they shoot first to start the 8th.
With a 2-point lead here, the Chinese have called their first stone in the rings. Want to get it right in the 4-foot if they can. Try and create a tougher situation for the U.S.
Here's the first stone for Tabitha Peterson. If you're the United States, is there a textbook way to go get a 2 here in the final end?
Well, as you can see here, their first goal is to establish a couple of corner guards, or 1 corner guard for sure, so they have a little cover. At some point, obviously, they have to go around those corner guards and get a rock in the rings. They don't have to worry about this Chinese stone just yet.
Atta girl.
They can deal with that towards the latter part of the end.
That one dangerously close to getting into the house, into the rings, but it does stop short.
Yeah, Tab still struggling a little bit with the speed. We saw the last end, she missed a couple of draws and just about slides that one into the rings.
Wang Rui didn't look like she was overly pleased off the release of that stone. We'll see how it turns out.
They're working pretty hard here to try and get this close to the rings or even in the rings. There's a pretty good spot for it with a 2-point lead. Actually, that stone under curling just a little bit, exposing the guard side of shot rock to the USA, which means if they so choose, they can come down and tap that yellow stone out and roll the shooter under the corner guard.
Saw that time ticking for the U.S., approaching just 4 minutes left.
Here it comes. Line's good.
And still this
Back and go. Yep.
7 stones remaining if you count this one. So you're looking at 40 seconds or so per stone for these last 6 shots. They cannot really afford to dilly-dally here at the end. The U.S. seemingly happy with that last effort. Try to find a way to solve the riddle that is the Chinese team in this event. But certainly when you're trying to find a way to get to at least a tie and send to extra ends, or maybe come up with 3 to win, I'd like to have the time to be able to make the proper decision. We'll see if it affects the United States.
Yeah, the most important thing is for the front end of the U.S. team to be in the hack, be ready to throw when Nina puts the broom down, just to make sure that they don't run out of time and they have enough time for those last few stones and last few decisions. You can see as soon as the broom goes down, Becca was leaving the hack, trying to save those seconds.
4, 5. No, just 4. 5, 6. Yep.
Becca's heavy. There was one quick yell by Nina to try and catch a piece of that center guard. So draw weight, or lack thereof, is causing some problems here for Team USA. Once again, Becca at this time heavy, throwing that guard right in the house, leaving a double available for the Chinese team.
Beautiful double takeout there for Team China, which now lies 3.
Nina now calling for the hit and roll by Becca. Wants to hit about 2/3 of this stone and roll into the 4-foot undercover.
Whoa, we're just gonna get nose. Okay.
Again, that time continuing to fall away for Team USA. Down to last end. The U.S. needed only 1 to tie. The comfort level would be a lot better for Team USA, but needing a deuce, the difficulty there elevated, especially against a team that has the pedigree of China.
And the USA more than likely needs some sort of a miss. That may have been the one out of the Chinese.
Sinclair talking to it right off the release.
Yeah, she must have got that, started that one curling just a little bit. She told him to go as she released it.
Whoa. Oh, okay. You want to come around it? We're already.
Not sure what to do. A little indecision here because Jamie got that rock on the wrong line early. Even though they think they're tight on time and they're trying to hurry a little bit, it's important for the USA to take their time once they sit in the hack to make sure that they don't make little mistakes like that. They need to execute properly here in this end.
Well, as anybody knows, if you've ever been running late, you can say you've got time, but still that feeling is somewhat inside your head. You wonder if that's what's plaguing the U.S. a little bit here. China, calm and collected. They've got the lead, they've got time, and you see right away Sinclair ready to go again.
Just throwing it nice and quiet here. It looks like they're trying to roll up on top of that yellow stone in the middle of the sheet. The other option that they had there was maybe just to throw the double and roll to the outside of the rings, which would open up the middle, give them a chance to come around that center guard.
Two to tie for the United States, 3 to win here in the final end. Anything else smaller than that won't get it done.
See, as Nina was leaving the house there, she was already telling Jamie what shot she was going to throw. She signaled where the broom should go for her throw.
And a nice, deliberate, smooth move here for China compared to what seems to be a little rushed tempo for the U.S. with the short clock.
Not positive that's the best place for that Chinese stone. They may have let the USA off the hook just a little bit. You can see now Nina has a chance to just throw this draw into the 4-foot around those center guards. That one that China just threw may cause them more problems.
Just the skip stones remaining for the U.S., and they need both of these stones to count for them to have the chance to tie.
This one being key. They need to get this one in the right place and give themselves a chance to throw a shot for two. Got to go a little bit for line and distance.
Can they get it there? Just barely. So the U.S. with a little bit of life left.
Well, she did get shot rock, but had she had a couple more feet of weight, that's when the curl really comes into play, and probably they would have been able to get that rock anywhere from half to 2/3 to 3/4 buried and make China's job a little tougher.
Now if the Chinese take this out, that's all she wrote. Down 2 with 1 rock left and no rocks in the house for the U.S. That math doesn't work. Lu Shijia for the win.
Maybe a little bit wide. Waiting for it to take the curl.
That's good enough to knock it out and take down the United States in draw number 1. Concession from the U.S. with 1 stone remaining and a 5-3 win for Team China as the U.S. loses its opener in this double round robin event. So China with the upper hand at the outset of NBCSN Curling Night. Back to wrap up this debut edition in a moment. NBCSN Curling Night has been brought to you by the United States Olympic Committee. For the latest deals on official Team USA gear, visit TeamUSAShop.com. And by USA Curling and the Manhattan Curling Cup, coming to Chelsea Piers, New York this March. Look at the final numbers again. 5-3 win for China over Team USA. That 3 spot in the 4th proving to be the difference. Tracy Wilson able to catch up with a couple of members of Team USA.
Guys, it was a nice rally in the 5th. We looked like you were going to make that comeback, but it wasn't to be. Nina, your thoughts on what happened?
I think we played a good game. I'm very happy with how we played. You know, we kind of got beat by the time clocks a little bit towards the end. It was our first time playing with time clocks all season, so just getting used to that whole system again and needing to pay attention to it. So it just kind of rushed us a little bit in the end.
Sure. Tabitha, we were watching as the time was counting down. Was that in the back of your mind through the final ends?
Yeah, I mean, and generally it's good to have like 7 minutes an end. So we saw we were at 5, and we're like, well, that's 2 minutes. We can do it just fine. So you just got to be faster in the hack and faster to call shots, and it was fine in the end. We still had a timeout left too, so that was part of our plan. We knew that in the back of our mind. We had an extra minute, so yeah.
So Nina, going forward, you'll be watching the clock at the start of the game?
Yes, definitely this time.
Thanks, guys.
So the clock was one issue for Team USA, but Pete, the big turning point, it seemed, wasn't about a shot that wasn't executed. It was about a shot never taken.
Yeah, that's right, Jason. It was an oversight by Nina Roth, coupled by a missed shot, which actually led to this double for 3 points by the Chinese in the 4th end.
Lu Shijia able to knock it through, get the 3 for China, and they held the lead from that point on. So the Chinese women on the board, the Japanese women too, striking out early with a win over New Zealand. Again, the first round of a 6-draw affair, double round robin for the women. Same deal going on for the men, and the United States squad led by skip Heath McCormick starting off with Team China. Pretty good game here as well, but the Chinese able to find a way to get past the American men. 7-5 the final. So China here too with a win in its initial draw against Team USA. Japan and New Zealand, their action also underway on NBCSN Curling Night. Looking forward to seeing the action continue here in the weeks to come on this series And that means the American men will be featured prominently next time out against the squad from New Zealand. Hope you join us for more NBCSN Curling Night coverage. But on this night, that'll do it for us. For Pete Fenson and Tracy Wilson and our entire crew, this is Jason Knapp saying good night for Curling Night from Minnesota.